my name's Rich, and this is your morning daily dose of F1 news. We're going to be talking about Aston Martin and Red Bull in a moment because I'm just getting myself angry over the whole situation. We're going to look at George Russell and also Lewis Hamilton versus Alonso. But the beginning of this show is going to be quite the rant and annoyance at ignorance within and around Formula One at the moment, because I've woken up and there's been some comments on TSKF1 around this, and there are many tweets and TikToks and just videos made on the subject I'm about to cover, which is probably going to take up a huge part of this show. And I'm a little bit how can I put this? I just don't like ignorance. I don't like ignorance. So shall we just get into it? Make sure you're hitting the like on the stream and also subscribing down below. All right, but here we go. Right, this I have to start the show this way because it is my personal quest to fight ignorance within Formula One, because I hate it. I hate people coming up with nonsense and spreading it. So I have to tackle this sort of head on. So the first subject is this, right? Now, Checo Perez made, well, I don't know who it was funny to, but it wasn't very funny when he said about 3 Red Bulls being on the podium. Now, pre-race yesterday had people commenting on TSKF1 content saying how Aston Martin had Red Bull data and they were copying them, right? Just no. A million times no. This is ignorant, lazy, stupid sort of analysis of Formula One. What you're going to get within Formula One is a convergence of design. Eventually, all of the cars, I would be shocked if they don't look nearly exactly the same of the Red Bull. But let's just look at it, right? For one, just look at the side pod as a starter. We have the huge gullies on the Aston Martin side pods, right? And look at the side pods of the Red Bull as a start. What is it that Aston Martin are copying? I think it's time that people just accepted other teams can come up with good concepts, right? Because it really annoys me that people are accusing Dan Fallows, who is ex-Red Bull, of taking design stuff to Aston Martin, because it's just an ignorant, lazy take, because Aston Martin have made progress. Like, have you guys never had a job in real life? Have you never ever worked in a workplace? What happens is, if you work somewhere good, the boss recruits the best people they can recruit. And shockingly, things get better. And that's exactly what Aston Martin have done. Does anyone know who runs Aston Martin now? The guy's a self-made billionaire. He doesn't do losing. He wins at life. Lawrence Stroll, people can have all the memes they want about Lance, but Lawrence Stroll is a winner at life. People can love it or they can hate it, but he's a self-made billionaire. And to be a self-made billionaire, you have to be pretty good at knowing how to win, whether it be in business, whether it be in sport. There are some fundamental ingredients to that, and one of them is simply recruiting staff, which is what he's done. He's recruited the right staff. Is it all Dan Fallows? No. But he's recruited people from Alpine. He's recruited people from Red Bull. He's taken some notable people from Mercedes, and they've all gone to Aston Martin. And I know this 100%. And it's not just Dan Fallows. You've got aerodynamicists. You've got CNC engineers. You've got engineers. You've got people from the powertrains and stuff like that have gone over to Aston Martin as well. And I'm just sick of already this morning seeing, oh, isn't it a coincidence that the Aston Martin, right? Just think about this. Think about this. Isn't it a coincidence one of the main guys from Red Bull goes to Aston Martin and Aston Martin get better. Isn't that a coincidence? He must have taken data. No, he took his considerable intelligence. That's what he took. He has a brain, unlike the people coming up with these absolutely insane things about them cheating. And it just pains me. I wanted to make a video about this later because I've found about 6 instances of cars actually looking exactly the same from F1 years gone by. Because I had a look like, am I misremembering this? Am I misremembering this? Because cars always end up looking similar, but they don't. They don't even look the same. So what is it? Are they copying? Or maybe Aston Martin have just recruited some very, very smart people. Look, Dan Fallows going from Red Bull to Aston Martin. There's a reason Red Bull had him in the first place. There's a reason Red Bull put him on massive gardening leave before he could even work for Aston Martin. And what's gardening leave? Where you're basically paid to do nothing and not engage with your new employer, so that you don't take any secrets, and any secrets that you did have are outdated by the time you get there anyway. And people saying about him taking design data, do you realise how stupid a comment that is? Like, I don't think people understand how stupid a thing that is to say. Like Dan Fallows is going to go to Christian Horner and Adrian Newey and be like, Don't mind this folder, boys. I'm just off over to Aston Martin. Don't worry about this big folder and external hard drives. I'm just popping over to Aston. Like, do people not realise how stupid they are? But the problem is, everyone seems to be lapping it up, and that's what's making me so angry. Honestly, because you try and do things in a sensible way and sort of report the news, and then everyone goes, Aston Martin are cheating? Aston Martin, they're cheating? No, they're not. But they said they are. Oh, God. Grow a brain. Please. It's offensive. It's offensive to anyone involved at Aston Martin, and it's offensive to anyone who enjoys the sport. When did this become a thing? And this is more a commentary on the sport, and I realise I'm digressing massively, but when did this become a thing in Formula One? When did we sort of just retreat to the lowest form of intelligence and what must be happening? When did this happen? What is... I don't understand. I can only think people like it just have never experienced the outside world or something. It's baffling to me. It is absolutely baffling to me. There's a reason Aston Martin have recruited these people. There's a reason Aston Martin went and got Fernando Alonso. You know, there's a reason Aston Martin are building an entirely new factory, wind tunnel and campus for the team. Look, I think people are going to be even more shocked in the next... I've said it, now it's the next 2 to 4 years. I'm pretty sure Aston Martin are going to be all over Red Bull and whoever else in the sport, because they're going to have the best staff, they're going to have the best facilities, and because of that, they're probably going to have the best car, which will mean they're probably going to win titles very, very shortly. And the trend, like, I'm being proven right with everything I've said about this so far. So tell me again how Aston Martin are cheating. I'm sorry, but that rant has been building up this morning, waking up to multiple comments about Aston Martin taking design data and that it's sketchy and that... Oh, God. Like, but I was just explaining to John, who's in the chat, right? It's not that people are saying it. It's not that people are saying it. It's that it's being presented as fact. That's what annoys me. It's not like someone going, Rich, do you think it's possible? Or do we think it's possible? It's straight up, they're cheating. They are cheating. They've taken... No, they haven't. They just haven't. They just haven't. Look. And that's what annoys me with modern social media, that people think their opinion is fact. And the fact is, that Aston Martin, apart from looking generally like a Formula One car, doesn't look like the Red Bull. It doesn't. And aerodynamically, it's working in different ways. And it was still 30 seconds behind the Red Bulls. So why are they thinking it's cheating? And I think they're massively underestimating the power of having a double world champion in your car and dragging it forward. Honestly, God, I can't help it, guys, because this whole channel, right? This whole channel, the basis of it is against this nonsense. There will be other very big, much bigger than me, publications and YouTube channels and things like this going along with this, because it drives engagement, because people love that. They love that in the modern, they love that nonsense. The low IQ, I don't have to think, it must be because they're cheating. But the boring reality doesn't entertain people. But the whole basis of this channel is that let's look a little bit deeper. Let's explain these things. And you can explain all these things in moments, like without even very much thought. And I'll never be... I nearly, right, I was very nearly... I want to be really honest now, because this has really pissed me off. I nearly went live, and the thumbnail was going to simply say, Aston Martin have cheated, because that's what everyone else would do. And I stopped myself doing it. To the detriment, I'd have more than double the amount of viewers I know in here right now if the thumbnail said, Aston Martin have cheated. And then I sat here doing this rant. I'd still have more viewers, but I refused to do it. I refused to do it because I think people can be better than that. I hope people can be better than that. Maybe they can't be, but I stopped myself doing that because I don't want to lower myself to that nonsense of just low IQ reporting and... but it's really triggered me this morning. It's really triggered me this morning. But anyway, let me just have a little read of the comments. I had to get that off my chest because it's been bubbling up since about 6:15 this morning, where it's just, why are people being stupid? Why are people being stupid? Right, yeah, most teams will follow the same designs of the top teams like Red Bull. They're just accusing one team for no... Look, there's going to be a convergence of design. It's happened in Formula One forever. Like, is everyone... I'm sure it was Lotus. Is everyone copying Lotus now because they've got the engine behind the driver? Like, are we still calling everyone Lotus copycats? Are we glad to see 3 Lotuses on the podium yesterday? Like, because they were I'm sure they were the first ones to think about putting the engine behind the driver. Why are we not saying, I'm glad to see there's 3 Lotuses on the podium today? No, because it's a stupid thing to say. It's just ridiculous. And I don't... Was it even... It's really annoying. Honestly, maybe Checo wanted to say something with Red Bull in it to cling on to staying. It seems a very Red Bull thing to say. The fact is Aston Martin fast. It's people who don't understand that great drivers can drive a midfield car. When their driver goes into a faster car, they're on the podium. This is the thing. It was a classless comment by Perez, and the fact Red Bull are not clarifying its own words say that they think someone who had no access to their factory can take details. Well, look, there was gardening leave for absolutely ages on Dan Fallows, so he hasn't got anything. No problematic. But I had to have a little bit of a rant about that, because I'm sure you guys are better, and I'm sure general F1 fans are better. I'm really sick of this. I mean, I'm prepared to accept I'm getting old. But it's descending into this thing where it's just nonsense and people grab it. And somehow that's what gains traction. It can be completely false, like this, completely made up, like this, fabricated and nonsensical, like this, and people grab it like it's the story instead of going, you're an idiot. I don't know what that is apart from stupidity. I don't get it. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Fallows is the creator of the RB18 because Newey's own. See, this is the thing as well, Pascal. Adrian Newey is a god. He is a god, but he's been part-time for years at Red Bull. He's been part-time for years at Red Bull. And I think it's, people just... I respect Red Bull. I respect them. They're doing an incredible job. But let's not just say because another team has improved that they're somehow taking data. That was the accusation that pissed me off. That they're just taking data from Red Bull. It's completely made up. It's completely fabricated for someone to get engagement. And that's all it is. And yeah, there we go. Please do smash a like on the stream and also make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, guys. I'll let things get to me. I don't think they know anything about McLaren and the fines they got, John, and everything like that. I just don't think they know anything about the sport, which is fine. It's fine to not know stuff. I'm not like gatekeeping the sport. It's fine not to know stuff. Just don't present stuff as fact that's completely farcical. That's the thing. Don't go, oh, Aston Martin are cheating, methinks. Dan Fallows has taken... No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. And, that's what I hate. That's what I hate. You're not a fan. You're an idiot. Right. Next one. George Russell. I am moving on because I could rant about that. And I'm probably still going to make a video on that later on today because it has just made me rage so hard again talking about it instead of just thinking about it. So, George Russell basically talking about maybe potential issues at Mercedes in the future. And I just wanted a little bit of your opinion on this. And no, I'm not being like controversial or anything like that. It's just sort of, do we think it's going to be a thing? Yesterday we heard, is Lewis managing or is he slow? Because I feel like I have a bit more pace, right? Now, it was said in a certain way, I feel. Or do we think that if George Russell and Lewis Hamilton are genuinely on a par, that it could become an issue within the team? I'm thinking Lewis and Rosberg, Lewis and Fernando. Could it become one of those things? Now, if memory serves, he said that. And he was told that Lewis was struggling a bit, but then almost immediately the next lap made a mistake and then was nowhere near Lewis for the rest of the race, if I remember rightly. I've just realised I haven't changed the bit down here, so ignore that. I've just realised. It's because I've been raging to myself, sat here getting ready to go live. So... was he saying that to get an easy pass, or what was the score there? Like, how far in reality did he finish behind Lewis? F1 Bahrain 2023 result. Because he seemed to make a mistake almost immediately. But I don't know. He didn't appear... He was 5 seconds behind, and behind Lance Stroll at the end was George Russell, behind Lewis. So do we think that there could be issues there in future if George is more on pace with Lewis? I mean, it looked like, I think what happened there as well was Lewis Hamilton, from my commentary and watch along, he managed to latch on to the DRS of Fernando Alonso for a good 3 or 4 laps once getting past, didn't he? And I think that enabled Lewis to pull away from Lance Stroll and George Russell. But then I think Lewis's tyres gave out just before he could attack Carlos Sainz, and he ended 3 seconds adrift of him. But it was just an interesting tidbit, because like I say, pretty much as soon as he said that, he ran wide at turn 10, and, he didn't seem to have it, did he? F1 drivers are odd beasts. George did make the comms then about 3 laps later said, these tyres are gone, need to box right now. I missed that one, John. I missed that one. Now, I'm not saying George isn't a great driver or anything like that. It's more about, do we think they can maintain how they are, you know, and going forward, do we think they're going to be all right? Please do smash a like on the stream, guys. It helps absolutely loads. Get involved in the chat as well. But it was just a little thing, really, that I wanted to bring to you guys and see if you had any input, really, on that. But I guess heaps don't. So, third bit is basically is this. It's to do with Fernando and Lewis Hamilton. Now, a lot of people may be unaware of their history, but they have a history. They were Lewis and Rosberg a decade before Lewis and Rosberg, right? It was a big thing back at McLaren when you had the rookie Lewis Hamilton coming in against the reigning world champion Fernando Alonso, and it really wasn't a good situation at McLaren that season. So there's a lot of history between those two, and sometimes it's still been frosty in the times since. But yesterday, I know I went a little bit crazy, but I thought look, I'll say it. There are very few drivers that can race how Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso did yesterday. And I will hang my hat on that. There are only a couple, I can't even actually think off the top of my head who, but I'm going to say there's probably only a couple of driver pairings that could race how those two did yesterday with the correct amount of space given and the correct amount of respect given on the passes, right? And I'll stand by that all day, every day, because the movement between the cars and then the pass was phenomenal. I don't think people really understand how good of a pass that was down into turn 10, where it's so easy to lock up. Had Alonso even slightly misjudged that, both of them are out of the race, like slightly, he just would have understeered straight into Lewis. It was a phenomenal pass. But there was a bit of a quote here, which Alonso gave, saying it was great, a lot of respect between us. It's never the same when you fight against Lewis, one of the legends of our sport, and you know he can do something unexpected and use his talent. He got me in turn 4, and I was in front of him, but he managed to pass me there. That was a little bit of a surprise, and I didn't like it, so I tried in another place, and it worked, and I had more pace, so I could pull away. That, though, was just one of 3 great overtakes Alonso made that night. So, and I'm in agreement, and he said it like he didn't like that he'd been passed, right? He didn't like that he'd been repassed by Lewis, and there's so many nuances to Formula One and passing and being passed, and I don't think for seasons now. Look, I'm not gonna name names because I don't need to when I say this. For me, passing in motorsport is like what Fernando Alonso did yesterday. That's passing in motorsport, where you literally find the gap. You find the gap and you get your car in front, and you're not crowding people off track, and you're not doing any of that nonsense. You find the gap, you pass into the corner, lovely, nice and well squared off, and everyone lives to fight another day, nice and fair. It's not a lunge. There was nothing risky about any of it, and it was just honestly, from Fernando Alonso there, what you saw was 23 years of Formula One and racecraft at the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. That is what you saw, rather than this whole, well, I'm on the inside and therefore I don't care what you do, whether you're off the track or not. And look, that isn't me hating. It's just, to me, that isn't effective passing. That's making a lunge, and you're either going to have a crash or someone's going to give way. And yeah, to me, I'd use the term classy yesterday. Yesterday was classy. That's what I think. Classy, a clinic in racecraft, so good, so good, and that's the standard of Formula One I want. I would have called it out if Fernando Alonso had gone into turn 10, opened his wheel, and forced Lewis Hamilton off the track on exit. I'd have called that out as a rubbish pass. I would have, because he might be in front. I'm an Alonso fan, but I'd have called it out for what it is. I would have. It's controlled not crashing, and it's silly. Whereas what we saw yesterday was classy racecraft from Fernando Alonso in multiple situations, and no more so than against Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton played his part because you have to be compliant, right? This is the thing. There comes a point in that move. There comes a point where Lewis Hamilton, in his head, has gone, "Crap, he's got me, and he's given him it." Instead of fighting it stupidly or whatever. But that's racing. Instead of this whole, "I'm just going to push you off the track. You do what you do, mate. If you drive into me, everyone's going to say you drove into me," when really it's the passer that's done the crashing. And it's just this weird thing that's infected Formula One over the past, I'd say, 3 or 4 years, which is just insanity to me. But yesterday was more of what I want to see. I want to see that more in Formula One. And I think people would want to see that more in Formula One because it's better racing. It's better racing. And it was closer, because Lewis Hamilton was able to stay in the DRS for longer and stay there. And there was a chance. And I didn't think he was going to get Alonso, but he might have got Sainz and stuff like that. But let's have a look. There's to be a great deal of respect between them, regardless of what happened between them. On the other than Sainz and Alonso and Seb and Lewis, I don't think either of them are particularly close to the other drivers. Well, interesting. Alonso made a few great passes, especially into turn 10 against Lewis. It was great to see. They both knew the score there, and both were brilliant. Alonso's move was fantastic, very classy racing, and I'm sure they'll have a little chat afterwards. Yeah, apparently they had like a really wholesome hug after. I've not seen it myself. Last year, Max versus Leclerc, and that was clean racing. It's all opinion, Andrea. I'm glad Hamilton had a little go back before yielding. He knew the faster car, but it's great to see. Yeah, exactly. That Alonso move on Lewis was ill. Top driving skills, indeed. I wonder if Leclerc had not retired, would Alonso have caught him? Still a great drive by Alonso. What was the gap? Well, Fernando finished 10 seconds in front of Sainz, and he was chilling. It was very clear over radio that Alonso was chilling with multiple laps to go. And he was still 10 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz. I'm going to go out and say, obviously, if it was like a 25-second gap, no. I'm going to go ahead and say, though, the gap was 15 seconds from Sainz to Leclerc. I think Alonso had more in him. I feel like Alonso had more in him, and I think that was pretty clear from the radio that Alonso had more in him at the end, and he could have been multiple seconds up the road. I think he was in. Well, he even mentioned like what strats on the wheel he was in, and basically that he was in like conserve mode, and he was just getting it to the end. So I think I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think if Leclerc was still running, I think Alonso would have seen that as like a carrot, and I think he'd have got him. I do. That Aston Martin seemed really strong in the latter stages of the race, didn't it? Compared to all but the Red Bull. And I don't hate to say it. I did tell you all. You think there will be a problem with Alonso and Lance? No. In my opinion, Lance will always get first driver treatment. No. No, Si. No. Again, Lawrence Stroll, while he is a dad, and while he's basically bought a Formula One team for his son, I think one of the few things Lawrence Stroll's values in life is winning. And Lance will be told, you're to support him. And I am absolutely certain on that. I think if Lance is in a position of a good result and Alonso is sat right behind him, then yeah, sure, they'll be told to stay where they are. But have I got a fantasy league? There's a link down in the description. I'm not sure if you can join it now the season started, but down in the description. 100% Alonso would have got him, I think. Worrying for Ferrari after yesterday's viewing, even on different strats. Well, I wanted to make a little bit of a video about this, and I might still make a video about this, right? That everyone is on about, everyone keeps going on about the Mercedes side pods, right? And everyone keeps going on and on about how they need to change and things like this. When the reality is, Hamilton was 3 seconds behind the Ferrari, right? And I know that point is lost on quite a few people because I've said it and I don't think a lot of people understand it, that maybe Red Bull have just absolutely nailed it. And I know that won't be comfortable for fans of other teams to hear, but maybe Red Bull have just absolutely nailed the concept here, because Mercedes were not far behind the Ferraris at all, but both teams were miles behind Red Bull, right? And no one's screaming for Ferrari to change the side pods. The people have only been on about like strategy or reliability, but no one's actually looking at the fact that Mercedes were pretty much racing the Ferraris at the end there. Well, the Ferrari, and, I think it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt that, okay, many teams have got the concept wrong, right? I'm comfortable with a team nailing it. I'm not so comfortable that the song and dance over cost cap has had any effect whatsoever. Well, this is the interesting thing, John. And we are digressing slightly here, but Ferrari is closer to Red Bull. That's not the case with the Merc. Look at the facts, Si. Look at the facts, Si. What you've just said is completely false. Look at the facts. I will admit that the Ferrari was 3 seconds closer to the Red Bull than the Mercedes was, but I don't think that the Ferrari has closed the gap. People look at single lap time. It's almost irrelevant, apart from at Monaco, right? Over a race distance, the difference was 3 seconds. And you can't count Leclerc. Look, we can only go if, buts, and maybes with Leclerc because he didn't finish. The car gave up. So, I refute that point right now, Si, because they're 3 seconds up the road, but, no, but exactly, Si. That point is irrelevant because it doesn't matter. Where's the 6/10 gap? That's the point. Where's the 6/10? Where's the 2/10? Where's the 2/10? Now, there's a 48-second gap in 57 laps. Almost a second a lap in race trim. So qualifying trim doesn't matter. It almost, like, you can be 3 seconds a lap quicker over one lap, but if you're a second a lap slower in race trim, you're screwed. In 3 laps, you've been passed. So, like, someone kept telling me how fast the Ferraris were last season. Quali pace is almost irrelevant, apart from at Monaco, isn't it? Because if you're able to go deeper into the race and be kinder on your tyres and go a second a lap faster, like, yesterday Red Bull was so much faster than everyone. It was ridiculous. Red Bull and Ferrari were on their temperature limit. Bahrain did not show a clear picture. The temperature conditions in Bahrain are pretty unique. Ferrari had how many poles last season, but could never convert it into an... Exactly. And we, think more about it. Red Bull and Ferrari were on their temperature limit yesterday. Now, Stefan, I'm certain Ferrari are going to remain on their temperature limit a lot this season, because that is That is a thing that they are famous for in recent history. I think Red Bull will get more of a handle of it, and I think Ferrari are stuck with it because, like Red Bull, like Ferrari, like Mercedes, they've stuck with a similar sort of idea for the car, and we all know that the Ferraris are chewing through the tyres. So I think you're going to see it continue, honestly. And the gap may be bigger in Jeddah. We'll see. Do you think a big part of the gap is how Red Bull looks after the tyres? 100%, Matthew. Now, look, people don't like saying these kinds of things, but I mean no disrespect with it. That Red Bull is an insane car, right? Max Verstappen's just doing his job. Checo Perez is just doing his job. You could put a lot of drivers in that car and they'd be doing that job in that car. It's clearly the class of the field, just as the Mercedes was for like the last decade. And how Red Bull look after their tyres is a massive thing. It's a massive thing. And honestly, like we saw it, I've said it so many times. Last season we saw it after the race multiple times, where Max would hop out of his car and his tyres would look brand new, basically, and Leclerc's would be in bits, like they were ruined. And that was, it's look, okay, you can have tyre management, right? You can have tyre management, that's fine. But a lot of it is down to the geometry of the suspension and how the package as a whole treats the tyres. You know, they're all professional, elite racing drivers. Look, Checo Perez, we know, with the right car, is a god on the tyres. We know that, you know? But sometimes, you know, he's been outdone by Max Verstappen, and it's not because he's got any worse at it, it's just because the platform is superb at it. And indeed, Carl, the tyre wear is king, and Red Bull are the best with Aston Martin a clear second. And I said in pre-season testing, the only comparable car to Max's Red Bull is Alonso in his Aston Martin. And most people said I was getting carried away. I was just looking at the data, and that's all I ever do. I don't let biases cloud my judgment. I just look at the data, and the data was there for us all to see, but no one was believing it and was thinking I was getting carried away. And yesterday proved I wasn't. What happened? On the long run, towards the end of the race, what did Alonso do? Just drove past people because the car, at the hands of Alonso, looks after the tyres beautifully, much like the Red Bull does at the hands of Max Verstappen. It's just a thing, right? But there we are. There we are. We've gone on quite a bit here. Please do make sure you've hit that like button and subscribed down below, guys. Thank you very much. Greetings from Solar System Saturn. New sub at 1071. Cheers. Please do make sure you've hit that subscribe down below. Just in case you don't know, my name's Rich. This is TSKF1. I'm live Monday to Friday, 9 AM UK time, with the latest F1 news and debate that we can have. And also, I'm live with every session of Formula One for watch-alongs on this channel, as well as YouTube Shorts and also YouTube video content. So please do make sure you've hit that subscribe down below. But that is the end of the morning show. I feel like we could sit here and debate stuff all morning, guys. But I have to go live over on pit lanes and do some iRacing. Oh, God. A cup of tea. I have to go live on pit lanes and do some iRacing. So if you're into that kind of thing, there's a link down in the description to come and follow me on Twitch. Please do. I'll be live on there probably in the next 20 minutes or so. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be live at 9 AM tomorrow morning, and I'm going to try and sneak out a video later on today. Thanks so much, guys, and I will see you later. Cheers. Bye-bye.